All right, what is up, geeks, nerds, and gamers, and welcome to another video. I'd like to preface this video by saying that the Night Haven expansion for New World Eternum has been some of the most fun I think I've had in years playing an MMO, especially coming back to an MMO that I had previously sort of given up on. So I'm really happy to see the state of the game today, to see all of the changes, progress, and updates that have been made over the course of the last 4 years. And I can say with very much confidence that this is probably the best state New World Eternum has ever been in, and that I am not planning on leaving anytime soon. With all of that said, today I would like to talk about what I feel like is the final failure of New World, and what was also the first failure of New World, the thing that drove me away from the game when it launched, even though I was having so much fun playing it. And it all revolves around these forts right here, and that is wars in New World. The wars in New World are supposed to be the flagship content of the game. And in the state that they're in right now, they are hot garbage. And there's a really, really good reason for that. Right? It's pretty basic, it's pretty plain, and that is that the environments where you do wars are extremely basic and plain. They all look exactly like this, right? You wouldn't be able to tell if I was just looking at this fort, or even if I was just looking at the field of battle out here. Unless you have done a lot of wars, you would not be able to tell me which zone I'm in right now. But I'm here in Monarch's Bluffs. A bluff is a giant cliff near the water, right? And so in Monarch's Bluffs, where we have giant cliffs near the water and extremely interesting environments to play in, for wars, we have flat piece of land. No cliffs, no interesting environments, no mountains to scale, no anything to move around or do or look or be anything even remotely different than every other flat fort in the entire game. If I was to go to another region, for example, Ebonscale Reach, where we have these massive mountains here, where we have these swamps down here, where we have all of this interesting stuff, we would be able to go over to the fort here, and we would see that we have carved out this wonderfully flat piece of land with the exact same layout as the Monarch's Bluffs. And if we were to go over here to, say, Eden Grove, which is a wonderfully forested, fantastic looking Angry Earth zone, the original Angry Earth zone, before we ever had the Elysian Wilds down here, right? Back when this was not even called the Elysian Wilds, back when this was First Light, Eden Grove existed. And we had this wonderful Angry Earth environment. And if you scroll all the way to the top here, you'll see that inside of this wonderfully forested, mountainous, rugged terrain that we have in Eden Grove, we have this really flat part with regular trees and the exact same layout. And what I'm trying to get at with all of this is the final thing that I think needs to change about New World to make it a top tier peak game is that we need to take a look at, or the dev team needs to take a look at, what they can do, what they can incorporate, what is unique about each of these different zones, and then incorporate that into your war. For example, let's go take a look at a little section of Monarch's Bluffs over here. We're going to have to go ahead and port back to our town. We're recalling to Inn. The reason I actually started thinking about this was because Night Haven has all of those really wonderful manors. Right, there's castles and manors and huge buildings all over the place. And yet, the war still takes place off in some obscure side area where there's, some fort on some flat piece of ground with the opposing side in that little makeshift encampment. But if you look, I mean, Nighthaven has these wonderful manners. Imagine fighting your war inside of these halls or inside of something similar to this, right? With little rooms and hallways, lots of places to get lost, a labyrinth of corridors that doesn't really lend itself to musket fights, but more lends itself to up close melee brawling. Could be a totally different dynamic than, for example, Windsward, where the whole point is that it's just this kind of flat farmland where, you know, muskets and things like that might be king. You would have completely different metas for every single one of these zones. So let's take a little bit of a look at what we could do with Monarch's Bluffs that would make it really, really interesting. And we don't even have to go very far outside the city to do this. We're going to travel right over here to one of the first places, one of the first environments you ever visited when you first landed. If you were put in Monarch's Bluffs as your starting zone, because you didn't get used to pick your starting zone, right? Everybody had these random starting zones, and one of them could be Monarch's Bluffs. And if you started there and you started your quest line, you would come down this road right here, and you would go out to this really interesting area where you would do your quest line. And it was kind of your first experience with one of the really well-built POIs of New World. And it's this POI right down here. And now tell me that fighting your way from the beach, right, there's a tiny little island right there. So call that spawn, or don't. Make the spawn right on the beach. I don't really care. But imagine fighting from the beaches here up this tiered mountain into this wrecked pirate ship, and then there are actually caves inside of this mountain. So instead of a flat pile of garbage, we could instead have this really, really interesting, wonderfully built dynamic POI that expresses the uniqueness and the individuality of specifically the zone that we're fighting over. We will have meta builds. We will have companies, guilds that are coming together, specifically making a build so that they can take a very, very specific node, a very, very specific zone, and hold that zone with this build that they've created that gives them an advantage specifically in this war POI. You can have your flat open areas out here in Windsward, right? This should stay the same. You have Cutlass Keys down here where you've got all of these little islands and all of this little stuff, but yet still, when you go to do the war in Cutlass Keys, flat. There's no swamp, there's no islands, there's no mountains, there's no anything like that. It's just flat, and it's just the same. We could have, you know, imagine if you were fighting over here in this swamp with all of these cool, there's a lot of really cool little wooden rickety bridges and stuff over here, right? We could have an area like that for the war in Cutlass Keys. Over here, you have Restless Shores, where the city of Restless Shores is actually built like there's a ship in the middle here, and it's built around this little cove, and there's a whole bunch of water down inside of here. But instead, again, we get a fort off on this island all by itself that's just flat, and it's the same layout as every other war zone in the entire game. And the point that I'm trying to get at is variety, right? And they've done a great job of that with everything else about the game, right? We have 3 different OPR maps now, and they're wonderful. We have different 3v3 maps now, and they're wonderful. We have lots of different modes, right? We've got Catacombs, we've got OPR, we've got 3v3, we've got Capture the Flag, we've got Raids, we've got Expeditions, we've got Mutated Expeditions, we've got Soul Trials, we've got 20-person boss fights. We have all of this wonderful, wonderful variety and all of the other aspects of the game, right? All of these zones are so wildly different and interesting to explore and look at and go be in, to buy houses in the zones that fit your own personal aesthetic. And then our wars are all the same. And I understand they're trying to make it so that both sides have a fair chance, right? So that the attacking side has a chance of winning and taking over the zone. But I'm sure that you can have interesting environments to fight in and make them feel fair. And the reason I'm sure of that is because we have 3 different OPR maps. We have multiple, I think, multiple Capture the Flag maps. I don't actually play very much Capture the Flag. We have different 3v3 maps, and all of those maps feel totally fair. The only thing that's different is different builds are going to be dominant in different maps because of their layouts. And I think that that's really important. So this is my plea sort of to AGS. Please, take an opportunity. This is your flagship content right here, right? Wars are supposed to be the thing that people play New World for. But I haven't seen a bit of content about wars, right? All the PvP content is about OPR. I haven't seen anybody really even caring about wars, right? Influence races are super fun. I'm so glad you made that change. That was a great change. But wars are supposed to be your flagship content, and they are drowning in mediocrity right now. So I really hope that that's the next big thing that New World tries to change. I'm really looking forward to it. I would love to fight my way into that pirate ship right there. Please let me do that. So thank you all for coming out. If you enjoyed the content, or if you have any other ideas or ways that you might change this, or anything like that, right? This is a very first draft. I'm just one nerd sitting here playing video games. I obviously don't have all the ideas. So start a dialogue with me. Throw something in the comments. Let me know what you think about the idea, or if you have an idea of your own. Let's talk about it, because I really like to do that stuff. If you got any use out of the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I am streaming New World content every day, starting at about 3 p.m. Eastern over on the Pangea server. So come take a look over on Twitch or right here on YouTube. Hope everybody has a great evening, and I will see you all the next time.